Welcome back to BHY Solutions. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. We're always talking about tech and how it impacts businesses.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to be exploring a tool that can help us do just that.
Okay.
It's called design fiction.
I like it already.
Right. Think of it as prototyping the future.
Okay.
But instead of building like gadgets and gizmos,
Yeah.
we're crafting stories and scenarios.
Interesting.
And for this deep dive, we'll be focusing on excerpts from the Little Book of Design Fiction for the Internet of Things,
Okay.
which dives into how design fiction can help us kind of navigate the world of the IoT.
The IoT is a pretty big topic these
It
days.
is. It's everywhere,
Pretty much.
and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah. And more complex.
Exactly. And the book really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
It argues that the IoT is more than just, devices. It's a
Right.
whole web of systems and data flows.
Yeah. It's not just the things themselves, right?
Exactly. They call them constellations in the
The
book.
constellation.
Yeah. And these constellations, they often operate kind of invisibly in the background.
I see.
Think about smart thermostats.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's got one now.
Right. And the book points out that, your thermostat isn't just regulating your home's temperature,
Hmm.
it's feeding data into this massive network.
Wow.
And that data is potentially being analyzed by all sorts of third parties who
Huh.
can shape business models and even influence energy markets.
That's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is. It's a whole ecosystem that most of us don't even think about.
Yeah. You're right. We just take it for granted.
Exactly. And that's where design fiction comes in.
Okay. So it helps us see these hidden systems.
Yes. It makes the invisible visible.
I like that.
Right. It allows us to explore, the potential impacts of the IoT.
Both good and bad, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And to ask ourselves, is this the future we want?
Powerful stuff.
It is. So we're starting to see how complex the IoT is,
Yeah, for sure.
but how do we make sense of it all?
Yeah, well, that's where design fiction comes in, right?
Right. It's like holding up a mirror to the future.
Okay.
It helps us envision different possibilities.
I'm starting to get the picture.
Good. And, design fiction draws inspiration from various fields like radical design and critical design,
Mm-hmm.
but it also borrows from science fiction and popular media.
So it's not just for academics then?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's actually a very engaging way to explore these complex topics.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not just about tech specs and algorithms.
Right.
It's about storytelling and creating narratives that help us understand the human impact of these technologies.
The human impact that's important.
Exactly. And the book gives us some great examples of how this works.
Okay.
They showcase 3 design fiction projects.
3.
Yeah, and each one tackles a different aspect of the IoT.
I'm all ears. Let's hear about them.
All right, so the first project is called Polly.
Polly.
Yeah, it's a product-driven design fiction that centers around an IoT 2.0 smart kettle.
A smart kettle. Like one that tells me when the water's boiled.
Well, it's a bit more than that.
Oh.
This smart kettle is designed to address data privacy concerns.
Wait, a smart kettle, that tells me where my data is going.
Exactly. In the world of Polly, data privacy has become a major issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this kettle is designed with radical transparency in mind.
What do you mean?
Well, it shows you every data transaction it makes in plain English.
Wow.
So you know exactly what information is being shared and why.
So this could actually give me more control over my data.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see why this is important.
And they take it even further.
How so?
They imagine a fictional standard called Minimum Necessary Datagram Protocol, or MNDP.
MNDP.
Yeah, imagine if all your devices had to tell you in plain English every bit of data they shared.
No more shady background processes.
Yep, just clear, upfront information.
Yeah.
That's the kind of future MNDP envisions.
Okay, that's pretty clever. But would a company really go through the trouble of implementing something like MNDP?
Well, to address that, they introduce another element,
What's that?
a government regulator for the IoT called OFIoT.
Oh, IoT.
Yeah, and in this world, OFIoT provides an accreditation scheme for IoT products.
I see.
And using MNDP becomes a requirement for getting a good rating.
So it incentivizes companies to be more transparent about their data practices.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like an energy efficiency rating, but for data privacy.
That's a great analogy. Consumers could make informed choices based on a product's data transparency rating.
That's a fascinating concept.
It is, and this design fiction isn't just about a smart kettle. It's about imagining a future where data privacy is built into the very fabric of the IoT.
I like that.
Me too. It really makes you think about the power of design fiction to not only envision new technologies,
Uh-huh.
but also to reimagine the systems and regulations that govern how we interact with technology.
It's not just about the what,
Yeah,
it's about the how.
exactly.
The book goes on to explore two other design fictions, right?
It does. And each one has its own unique approach to tackling a challenge presented by the IoT.
Well, I can't wait to hear about them.
Me too. Should we move on to the next one?
Absolutely. So the next project shifts gears a little bit.
Okay.
It's called Allspark.
Allspark.
And it takes a more technology-driven approach,
Okay.
focusing on the role of batteries
Okay.
and the IoT in creating a more sustainable energy grid.
Batteries and the energy grid.
Yeah,
Not exactly the most glamorous topic.
you'd be surprised.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How does design fiction make this come alive?
Well, imagine a world where your home has this big battery
Okay.
charged up by solar panels
Hmm.
that directly powers your devices.
No more energy lost in conversions or anything.
Exactly, just pure efficient energy flow.
Interesting. That's the core idea behind Allspark.
Yep, they call these large home batteries directors.
Directors
And they envision smaller portable batteries called runners
run errands.
that you can use to power individual devices.
So instead of plugging my laptop into the wall.
Plug it into a runner.
Exactly.
I'm picturing a future where everything is wirelessly connected,
Yeah.
powered by these sleek little batteries.
That's the vision. But the real genius of Allspark
Okay.
is how they incorporate the IoT to optimize the whole energy system.
So like a smart grid.
Exactly. Imagine a network
Right.
where your energy provider knows exactly how much energy is stored in each home's director battery
Wow.
and how much energy is likely to be used in the coming hours.
So it's like this giant interconnected network of batteries
Yeah,
all working together to balance supply and demand.
precisely.
That's pretty amazing. What about the people in this system, though?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how would this change our daily routines?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They envision a world where energy pricing becomes dynamic,
Dynamic.
fluctuating based on supply and demand.
So during peak hours when energy from the grid is expensive,
Uh-huh.
the Allspark system might encourage me to use energy stored in my director battery instead.
So my energy bill could actually go down.
Potentially, yeah.
If I'm willing to be flexible with when I use certain appliances,
Right.
I could run the dishwasher at night when energy is cheaper.
That's the idea.
This is making me rethink my whole relationship with energy consumption.
It's a whole new way of thinking about it.
And they've even designed an app that visualizes all of this,
They have.
showing you energy prices, battery levels,
Yep.
and suggesting ways to optimize your usage.
It really empowers you to make informed decisions about your energy consumption.
So this Allspark system isn't just optimizing energy.
Right.
It's optimizing our whole relationship with energy. It's making me realize how much we take our current energy infrastructure for granted.
It's easy to do.
I'm curious, though, is this just a technological solution?
That's a good question.
Or does it require like a shift in our behaviors as well?
That's a key insight from Allspark, actually.
Okay.
They introduced this concept of energy temporality.
Energy temporality.
Yeah, suggesting that this shift could change how we design and use appliances.
I see.
Like if we're encouraged to run our washing machines at night when energy is cheaper,
Right.
those machines might need to be redesigned to be quieter.
So they don't disrupt our sleep.
Exactly.
It's not just about the technology.
Nope.
It's about adapting our lifestyles and behaviors to this new energy paradigm.
That's a great way to put it.
I'm starting to see how design fiction can help us anticipate these ripple effects
Mm-hmm.
and design for a more sustainable future.
That's the goal.
It prompts us to think beyond just the immediate technological solution
Yeah,
and consider the broader societal and behavioral implications.
absolutely.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Glad to hear it.
I'm really eager to hear about that final design fiction project featured in the book.
So this last project, Orbit Privacy, tackles a challenge we all face in the digital age.
Yeah.
User agreements.
Ugh, yeah, you know those long documents with all the legal jargon?
Yeah.
I just click agree without even reading them half the time.
We all do, but as more devices become interconnected, those agreements become even more important.
How so?
Well, because they dictate how our data is collected, shared, and used.
And that's where regulations like GDPR come in.
Precisely, GDPR gives you more control over your personal data.
Okay, like what kind of control?
You have the right to know what data a company is collecting, how they're using it. You can even request to have it deleted.
I see. But I'll admit the specifics of GDPR is still a bit fuzzy to me.
Well, orbit privacy actually takes those principles
Okay.
and translates them into a visual language.
A visual language.
Yeah, and something much easier to grasp.
So how do they make user agreements more user-friendly?
They introduce this concept of privacy
The
orbits.
C orbits.
Yeah, basically infographics that visually represent how your data is being shared
Yeah.
and how identifiable you are based on that data.
So like instead of pages of text, I'd see a simple visual.
Exactly. Imagine setting up a new smart door lock, and instead of that wall of legal text, you get a clear picture of how different features impact your privacy.
So I could see at a glance how enabling geofencing or voice control would affect my data sharing.
Exactly. It would make you think twice before just clicking agree.
It definitely would. And you said these orbits go beyond just showing where my data goes.
They do. They also use design elements to indicate how likely you are to be identified based on the data being shared.
So it's like a risk assessment for my data privacy.
Precisely, all presented in an easy-to-digest visual format.
Wow, that's brilliant. It really empowers users to make informed decisions about their privacy
That's the idea.
without having to decipher all that legal jargon.
Exactly.
Feels like we're moving from a world of click-through agreements to a world of informed consent.
That's a great way to put it. Orbit privacy isn't just about simplifying user agreements.
So
It's about creating a more transparent and accountable system for data sharing in the age of the IoT.
it recognizes that we as individuals should have a clear understanding of how our data is being used.
And the potential risks involved.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive.
Glad to hear it.
These 3 design fiction projects, Allspark and Orbit Privacy,
Yeah.
they've really highlighted the power of design thinking to grapple with these complex challenges and opportunities presented by the IoT.
It's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about how that technology shapes our lives,
Our behaviors.
our relationships with each other, and the world around us.
It's about moving beyond the hype and getting to the heart of what matters.
Absolutely. Human values, social impact, and the kind of future we want to create.
Design fiction really gives us the tools to have those conversations and make informed decisions about tech's role in our lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for our listeners, if this has sparked your own what-if questions about the IoT and the future of tech, we highly recommend checking out the Little Book of Design Fiction for the Internet of Things.
It's a great resource.
It'll challenge your assumptions and inspire you to think differently about the world around you. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep asking those tough questions.